All right, good evening, everyone. Right now it is 11:30. Today we'll be doing some speaking relating to food and cooking. And part two, we'll be talking about describe a house apartment that someone you know lives in. And part three, we'll be talking about some place to live or other places or where people prefer to live. So these are today's topic. All right, before we start, right? I wrote this word, which is named SWABSWI. All right, now this is an abbreviation that I have made up. It is an anagram that I have made up. This actually stands for since, when, although, because, so, which, if. Now, these are some of them are conditional and some of them are subordinate clause, and these words are essential for using or for getting the score for Ielts. All right, so please always remember this word SWABSWI, and remember to use these words in each one of the sentence if you can. All right, and believe me, it will help you to bring up your grades. All right. Now we'll start with the first question, starting with what source of food do you like eating most? All right, so what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to use these in order. All right, so first I'm going to use since, and then I'm going to use this word, all right? So the first sentence that I'm going to start with is since, all right? Since, let's say, since I am living in a tropical area, I love fruits and ice cream. All right, so as you know here, right, I use since, and then these are actually conditional. So I say, since I am living in a tropical area, I love fruits and ice cream. So simply, I would just answer it like this. All right, and believe me, when you use these words, right, it really allows you to get a better grade than usual. So make sure you use these words and make your sentence sound kind of different. All right. Now, the next question is, who normally does the cooking in your house? Now I'm going to use when. All right. So when does not mean, when is a conditional word, right? So it does not usually mean, let's say, for example, when I was younger or when I was a child. It's not talking about like those kind of time. Well, when I say conditional, right, it should be something that you did, right? Or something that you're in a state. All right, so here's what I'm going to put. So one other thing that you can put is when I am home with my family, my mom is usually the one that cooks. All right, very simple, right? So here we use the word when to make up a sentence. All right, so the first letter we used since, second letter we used when. Now the third letter we're going to use although with this question. Now here it says, do you watch cookery programs on TV? All right. Now as you know, cookery programs are like programs, TV shows that is relating to cooking. My favorite show is the one on a Korean channel called 골목 식당. Yes, right. Only Koreans would know that. It's a show about like very similar to Kitchen Nightmare, run by Gordon Ramsay, but it's more like a Korean version. All right, so let's answer this question. Do you watch cookery programs on TV? Now, here I'm going to use although. Here, what I'm going to write is although I don't like to cook, I love cookery program. Cookery programs. Now, cookery programs are something that is comprehensive. So there are many programs, right? Then what I would write is I love cookery program such as Jamie Oliver, Jamie Oliver Show, or The Kitchen Nightmare. Kitchen Nightmare by Gordon Ramsay. Now, as you know here, right? It is really important to use the articles the or a. It is very important because most of the time people would just ignore, right? But sometimes the examiner will look at these, see if you have written it or not. So here I have the article, right? And also to is also an important word to use because sometimes when we're using a verb, right? It is essential. Sometimes it is essential to use it. And when you are not using to when it's supposed to be there, then the sentence will sound very awkward. All right, next sentence. In general, do you prefer eating out or eating at home? Now here I would use because. All right. Now when I say because, right, I'm not saying you have to use the word because in the middle of the sentence. For example, let's say I love red because it gives me passion. Right? That's not the way how you use because to make it longer. You have to say like this. Because I have passion, I love red. And then afterward, you can extend your sentence more. But if you use because in the middle of the sentence, there is a limit of the length that you're going to use a sentence. So when you're using the word because, right, you have to use it in the beginning of the sentence. So for example, right, in general, do you prefer eating out or eating at home? So here, what I'm going to put is because I work until late at night, I am more accustomed to eating out. And then I would use the word so. So I prefer eating out. All right, so that's how I would say. So here I have the because subordinate clause. So I say because I work until late at night, I am more accustomed to eating out. So I prefer eating out. Right? And then here, as you know, right, like I told you, you can add like a preposition at a restaurant, right? And then if you want to add more, you can add conjunction. But remember, right, if you put because in the middle of the sentence, it will be hard to make this kind of sentence. All right, so just remember that. Okay, and then part two, describe a house, apartment that someone you know lives in. Okay, this one we'll just try to answer it normally. Here we have which and if, so let's try to use the which and if conditional word, all right? So here, these are the questions that I would have to answer. Whose apartment this is, where the apartment is, and what it looks like inside. All right, like I told you, right? How do we always start our sentence for the part two? I always tell my students to start like this. I'd like to talk about. I'd like to talk about, right? And then the subject, right? Some of the people will say that I am going to talk about. That is also fine, right? But remember, right? It will sound unnatural if you just try to go straight to the topic, right? So probably have like a warm up word starting with this. So here we have I like to talk about my sister's house. All right, and then we just go on. Here, my sister has been owning the apartment. Has been owning the apartment that she is living in for quite long. And one more thing, my suggestion is right when you're trying to answer these for 2 minutes. I suggest you to just ignore these. All right, just ignore these. Let's say if my goal is around like 6.0 or 6.5, just ignore this and just focus on speaking. Because if you are trying to focus on these, right, what will happen is that your words will be very limited. All right, so therefore, try to ignore that and then just try to speak your words for 2 minutes. Okay. All right, and then let me continue. So my sister has been owning the apartment that she is living in for quite long. When she first bought it, she was very exciting. However, after a while, she kind of got tired of it. Therefore, she is thinking of moving to a different apartment. I visit her house every twice a year. Whenever I go there, I would take my whole family, which includes my 2 sons and my wife. If my 2 sons miss going there, they become extremely mad. Because my sister is always nice to my 2 lovely sons, my sons cannot miss going there. Okay, all right, so I'll stop it here for the part 2. All right, so just remember, this is just the beginning. So continuing like this, right, you can develop your word while you're thinking. All right. Next question. What kinds of home are most popular in your country and why is this? All right. Now let's look at the next word. All right. So I'm going to use the word which. All right. So here, of course I'm going to say which, right? But let's try to make it more make sense. So here I'm going to write since. All right. Since the country where I live is very small and populated. Apartments are the most popular accommodation wrong spelling for accommodation. Are there 2 M's? Yep, there are 2 M's. Accommodation, most popular accommodation where people love to live in. Alright, so I just have 3 lines here, right? And then next, what do you think are the advantages of living in a house rather than an apartment? And here I'll just answer freely for this one. Now, One of the things that you want to, I don't know if I mentioned this on the other video, but when you say yes, right? Um, don't just try to say yes. Try to emphasize that yes. So, for example, you can say absolutely. If you say no, don't just say no. You can emphasize that word. For example, you can say, frankly speaking, to be honest. These are the words, or actually, these are the words to express no. Okay, so you can use that. So here I'm going to use those kind of words, and then I can say absolutely. So here, what do you think are the advantages of living in a house rather than this is so I would say absolutely. Absolutely, there are many advantages, and then I would use the word connecting word, right? Such as in a house, rather, such as large space, and private areas, right? And then I would use a subordinate clause in a moreover, you can make a lot of noise when you are living when you're living in a house, since since there are, since the neighbors are indistant. That's how I would use. Now next, do you think everyone would like to live in a larger home, and why is that? All right. Now they're saying, do you think, right? Let me show you one of the idioms. One of the idioms that you can use here, right, is we use the word I think really a lot, right? We use the word I think really a lot. Now, one of the idioms that you can use, right? My take on that. My take on that. All right. My take on that is, all right, hold on. All right, sorry, not my take on that. My take on this is that, and then you continue. All right. So here, right? So the way how you can answer is, my take on this is that. All right, you can start like that. All right, so let's look at the question. Do you think that everyone would like to live in a larger home? And why is that? All right, so I would say my take on this is that many people prefer larger homes. Larger homes. All right, and then I would say one of the reason is that everyone has a hobby, right? And hobbies, regardless of what it is, it requires an enormous amount of space. All right, okay. All right, so we are finishing doing the answer, right? Now we're going to review some of these words with some accents and with some pronunciation, all right? Now, the first question is what source of food do you like eating most? All right, and then I'll answer, all right? So, the beginning, right? So, the accent that you're supposed to make in the beginning is supposed to be up and then coming down, right? So here it will be since, not up going down, but it should be going upwards. So it should be since, all right? Since, okay, all right? So always remember that accent, all right? And it looks more alive. All right, so accent is really important, so as the pronunciation. But I would say accent is more important. One of the reason is because depending on how much you emphasize on the accent, regardless of your pronunciation, people are able to understand you much clearer. All right. So here I'm going to answer. Since I am living in a tropical area, I love fruits and ice cream. Okay. Next. Who normally does the cooking in your home? When I am home with my family, my mom is usually the one that cooks. Do you watch cookery programs on TV? Although I don't like to cook, I love cookery programs such as Jamie Oliver show or The Kitchen Nightmare by Gordon Ramsay. In general, do you prefer eating out or eating at home? Because I work until late at night, I am more accustomed to eating out. So I prefer eating out at a restaurant. All right. Part 2. Describe house apartment that someone you know lives in. I'd like to talk about my sister's house. My sister has been owning the apartment that she is living in for quite long. When she first bought it, she was very exciting. However, after a while, she kind of got tired of it. Therefore, she is thinking of moving to a different apartment. I visit her house every twice a year. Whenever I go there, I would take my whole family, which includes my 2 sons and my wife. If my 2 sons miss going there, they become extremely mad. Because my sister is always nice to my 2 lovely sons, my sons cannot miss going there. All right, and remember we have the if conditional and we have the word which. What kinds of home are most popular in your country? And why is this? Since the country where I live is very small and populated, apartments are the most popular accommodation where people love to live. What do you think are the advantages of living in a house rather than an apartment? Absolutely, there are many advantages such as large space and private areas. Moreover, you can make a lot of noise when you are living in a house since the neighbors are indistinct. Do you think that everyone would like to live in a larger home, and why is that? My take on this is that many people prefer larger homes. One of the reasons is that everyone has a hobby. And hobbies, regardless of what it is, it requires an enormous amount of space. So people would prefer to live in a larger home. All right, everyone, thank you for listening. That is it for today, right? Every day I'll be almost every day. If I can, I'll try to upload a video to support everyone who is really into Ielts and who is really studying Ielts to go abroad, right? So I hope really this video can help you, and I really want you to be studying in abroad. All right, and I'll do whatever it takes to bring as much information I can and so that you can watch this video and be helpful. All right. So that is it for today and I'll see you next time. All right. Goodbye and good night.